Hi guys, this is Mr. Urrego. Okay, so today we're factoring quadratic expressions using product and sum. Okay, so first of all we're gonna go over the build work because I think it's worth it. So we have a trinomial. Whenever we are factoring, you always check greatest common factor. That's the first thing you check always. Greatest common factor. In my case, I check if the small number, the -6, goes into 12 and goes into 90. In our case, it does. So -6 will be my common factor. Now, you'll be asking, why am I taking the negative? Because I want my first term. After I factor to be positive, and I'll show that in a minute. So I have a -6 common factor. Now between the x's, I have x to the fifth, x to the fourth, x cubed. So x cubed is my common factor. Okay. So now that I have my -6x cubed as a common factor, I open my parentheses. Open parentheses and start dividing every term by -6x cubed. So -6x cubed. So -6x fifth divided by -6x cubed, the -6 cancel. X to the fifth divided by x squared, by x fifth. So x to the fifth divided by x cubed, x, subtract the exponents, 5 minus 3 is 2. Negative, bring the negative. 12x squared, x to the fourth divided by -6x cubed. Negative, positive. So negative and negative is going to be positive, and this is horrible, right? 12 divided by 6 is 2. X to the fourth divided by x cubed, x to the first. Next, 90 divided by -6x cubed. So 90 divided by -6 is -15. X cubed divided by x cubed, they cancel out. So I'm done doing GCF. Now, every time I factor, I always check inside of the parentheses to see if there's anything else that I can factor. In our case, we have a trinomial. So I'm going to use product and sum to factor this. Product is the last number, the sum is the middle number always. So I need two numbers that you multiply, you get -15. But when you add to subtract, you get +2. And the numbers are 5 and 3. 5 times 6 is 15, but I need a -15. So one of them has to be negative. To find out which one is the 5 and 3, I check my sum. And you see that the sum is +2. So that means my bigger number has to be positive, the smaller number has to be negative. So my numbers are 5, negative, and -3. Okay. Now once I have my numbers, 5 and -3, let's write it down here on the side so I can erase what I have here. So now I'm going to erase all this on the bottom so I can factor on the bottom, underneath of that thing. Okay. So equals whatever 5 and -3, I'm going to remember that. Whatever is outside the parentheses comes down, -6x cubed. Now this trinomial is going to factor into parentheses. The x squared breaks into x and x. And my numbers were +5, -3. And we're done. So that's how you factor any regular trinomial. Today the idea is to factor trinomials that have a leading coefficient different of 1. So here in problem number 2, I can see that I have a leading coefficient equals to 2. So that's what I'm going to address today. Now, the process here is different. The first step you have to do is multiply my leading coefficient times my constant. Multiply those two. So multiply. Okay? 2 times -4 is -8. So I multiply 2 times -4, and that gives me a product of -8. So I'm going to look for a product that is equal to -8, and the sum still is the middle number, so my sum has to be equal to 7. So two numbers that you multiply get negative 8, and you add or subtract, you get 7. Not too many choices. 8 and 1 is 8, but I need a negative. So I need a negative, therefore I check if my sum is positive or negative. In this case, it's positive. So my bigger number has to be positive, and the one has to be negative. So the one has to be negative. So those are my two values. Now, once I have my two values, it's not the same process as before. Now it's a little bit longer. I'm going to factor this trinomial using grouping. So to use grouping, we needed to set up an expression with 4 terms. So my original expression was 2x squared plus 7x minus 4. Now I need 4 terms. So I'm going to bring these two numbers, and I'm going to break up the middle one, the 7x. So every time you're doing grouping, and in this trinomials, you break up the middle one, the value that is with the x. So that 7x turns into 8x minus 1x. I'm just using these two values that we just found, 8 and negative 1. 8 and negative 1. Now, if you double check 8x minus 1x, it's 7x. So now I just bring down the other two values. I'm going to bring down the negative 4, and I'm going to bring down the 2x squared. And I have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm able to use grouping. Okay, I'm using grouping. So now I have 4 terms. Okay, what I want to do next is make groups of 2. I want to make 2 groups of 2. So first and second term together, third and fourth term together. Okay, make sure that this sign is on the inside of that parenthesis. Okay, make sure that that sign is inside the parenthesis. Now on every single parenthesis, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do greatest common factor on each parenthesis. And let's do one parenthesis at a time. First parenthesis, the 2 is common factor, so 2 is a common factor. X is a common factor. I bring the x with the lowest exponent. Now I open my parenthesis. That's supposed to be a parenthesis. So, open parenthesis. Here we go. Open parenthesis. The first term, 2x squared divided by 2. Again, 2x squared divided by my common factor. That gives me x plus 8x divided by 2x. X is your 4. Okay, and I'm done with my first parenthesis. If you notice, I have negative 1x minus 4. The only thing that is in common there is you have a negative on both terms. The 1 is not common. Well, actually, the 1 is common, but the 4 is not. So anytime there's nothing that I can bring out of a parenthesis, I bring a 1. Okay, so the negative is common factor, and I bring a 1. Now I open parenthesis. Negative 1x divided by negative 1, positive x. Negative 4 divided by negative 1, positive 4. Now, how do I know if I'm doing this right? Is the 2 parentheses have to be the same. If they're the same, that means my process is right. Now that I have that, I'm one step away to finish this thing. So because my 2 parentheses are the same, technically I'm doing another common factor. So the parenthesis is common in both terms. So I'm going to bring the x plus 4 here. And whatever it's outside the parenthesis, the 2x and the negative 1, will come up to a second parenthesis. And that's your answer. So my answer is x plus 4 times 2x minus 1. All right? Let's try the last example. So now, we have 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. First thing is, let's see if there's any GCF. GCF between the 12, the 12, the 5, and the 2. No greatest common factor. So, but at least I tried. So that means because I have a coefficient in front, that means I have to do the long process using grouping. So let me start. How do I start? First times last. 12 times negative 2. And that's going to be my product. 12 times negative 2 is going to be negative 24. The sum is always your middle value, which is 5. So I need two values that you multiply, you get negative 24, but when you add, you get 5. My answer, 8 times 3. Because one of them has to be negative, then I check to see which one is negative. You see that the sum is a positive 5. That means my bigger number is positive and my smaller number is negative. So my numbers are positive 8 times negative 3. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that. So I have 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. I'm going to use the new two numbers to break the middle number. So 5x is going to turn into 8x, the first value, minus 3x, the second value. That's what I use those for. I bring down the 2, negative 2, and I bring down the 12x. 12x squared, and it's going to be plus. So now I have 4 terms. 4 terms, make 2 groups of 2. So 12x squared plus 8x, and the second one will be negative 3x minus 2. GCF on each parenthesis. GCF on the first parenthesis. Between the 12 and the 8, common factor is 4. Between the x squared and the x, common factor is x. Inside, 12 divided by 4, 3. X squared divided by x, x. Plus 8x divided by 4x. The x is cancelled, you have a 2 left. Same problem that we had before. I have a negative on both values on the second parenthesis. I have a negative on both. So that means I take a negative as a common factor. Now the 3 is not common, the 2 is not common. So I'm not taking any numbers, so I need to take a 1 as a common factor. I have to take a 1 as a common factor. There's nothing else to take. Open parenthesis. Basically, this negative 1 that I just put right here is going to change the signs on the whole parenthesis. So that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to have negative 3x divided by negative 1 turns into positive 3x. Negative 2 divided by negative 1 turns into positive 2. How do I know if I'm doing it right? Look at the parentheses. They're the same. Therefore, they come into 1 over here. 3x plus 2 is a common factor. And whatever is outside comes to a second parenthesis for x minus 1. And that's your final answer. All right, guys, practice, please. Take care. Have fun.